All right, you guys are almost done. So you have your pie pieces all filled in all around your circle. And what you're going to do now is you're going to take your background template of your circle and you're going to get rid of all your guidelines, and then you're also going to fill it with a color. So to do that, I'm going to make sure that all my other layers are locked. And listen, I'm doing an example with this one, so my layers are looking different than yours. So don't worry if you see different labels in my layers. It's because this is an example and I have a different setup than you guys do. So if I'm on my circle layer, I have to make sure, first of all, that that layer is highlighted, so I'm working on it. I want to make sure all my pie pieces are locked, so I don't accidentally delete anything from there. And I'm going to start deleting my guidelines, the line segments, and you usually can just click on it, and once it says guide, you can hit delete. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can also go to view, you can go to guides, and you can go to hide guides, but usually clicking on them with your selection tool will delete them. But now I'm going to take my circle, and you can do two things. You can go to your fill and your stroke, and you can double click on your fill and pick a color, and that'll fill it in with a color. I'd be mindful of having a stroke. It usually does not look good, so I suggest you don't have a stroke for your circle. But if you want to do a gradient, what you do instead is, instead of filling it with a color, you're going to go to Window and go to Gradient. And this is actually the most recent gradient I used, so this is why it looks like this. So if I click on this, now I have a gradient. And remember, you can add colors if you want to. If you hover under this bar, you'll get a plus icon, and then if you click, you can add more options to your gradient. If you double click on one of these little spaces, you can start adding color. So you can add color this way. Now what you also want to do is start looking at your artwork as a whole and start seeing what else you can do to it. So in mine, my last one didn't actually have these stars. What I did was, after I added a gradient, I looked at it and I thought that it would be better to have little stars. So I just took the paintbrush tool and I changed the size and just clicked around here, and it didn't take very long. I didn't even do copy paste because it was easier and faster just to kind of click randomly. I also went over some of the mountain caps and just put little blobs of paint on them. So I did make some changes from the last time you saw this. But that's how you add a background color. If you have any seams, some of you might have some of your pie piece seams, or maybe you have some paint drops on the outer edge that you want to clean up. What you do for that is you would use your eyedropper tool, which is over here in your toolbar, or you could hit I on your keyboard. But you would want to pick a color that you need to. So you go to eyedropper, pick a color, and then you go to paintbrush, and then you would paint over any seams that you have. You can also select the object and just make the stroke see-through. Sometimes that'll work too. But do some evaluation of your pie piece as a whole. For instance, for this one, my mountains did not actually all connect. So what I did to fix that was I took the pen tool, which is over here, and I clicked all the way around like this, and I kept going all the way, blah blah blah, until I got all the way back to the end. And you can see that on let's see, what layer is that on? So you can see the pen tool, I went all the way around, I just traced the mountains. And that let me actually fill those in with a color. So that meant that I had additional options for how my mandala looked. So you can fill in your background circle, fill in any seams that you have. You can have multiple layers of backgrounds if you want to do something like what I did with the pen tool. If you have a feature, that'll work with that. But that's how you fill in your circle, with either gradient or a color. And also how you delete your guidelines.